Now, if you'd like something to be happy about, farm sales in the last 3 months leading into July 2020 are up 15%. And joining us now to work through the REANZ stats as well as what's driving them and some things around those headwinds of environmental challenges is General Manager from Property Brokers, Conrad Wilkshire. Good evening, Conrad. Thank you so much for joining Sarah's Country tonight.
Thanks, Sarah. No, great to be alongside the show. We're keen to follow it and good to be a part of it.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you. Conrad, this is fantastic news. The median prices haven't altered either.
No, look, a couple of things to make this last 3 months interesting, particularly, that June-July period, is that we knew the autumn was going to be tricky because of the lockdown. And, in fact, you couldn't get on properties over April, and lockdown only really mid-May. We were able to get out and about to what was a very kind of new business as usual. So, the autumn market's worth about at least a third of the annual sales. So to be locked out of that was very challenging for the industry because we knew there was a lot of farm activity, a lot of people wanting to take options for the next season. But, look, fortunately, you can't stop a market, and I think there's one big signal in this. And, there were 341 farms sold using the latest REANZ data to the end of July, and that's up 30% on the same time the year before. And as you say, the value's held across the board at about that 23,000 hectare. So, that's a pretty solid effort from the market point of view. And what I'd also say is that the lifestyle market similarly is even stronger. And maybe it's because people felt through the lockdown period that they just wanted to get out and get off the small section, but it's been unprecedented. There's 1,240 sales for the 3 months to July. And to give that a context, almost 2/3 of them happened in, oops, I fell off the grid there, my temporary stand. There's actually been 2/3 of those were in July. And incredibly, that's about 463% on the period, same period for May. So when you have a look at all that and you put it all together, it's quite a solid story around the fact that we don't expect the market to carry on at that level. What that was a lot of pent-up demand and genuine on the part of businesses, farm businesses to go forward, and also maybe there was a bit of a COVID effect with the lifestyle market. But certainly you'd have to say they are very solid numbers, and obviously there's some regulatory impact there, I think, in the lifestyle market where first home buyers had more options. It had a good run with their KiwiSaver recovery. They'd had 5 years of solid gains with KiwiSaver. Regulatory hurdles were dropped to get in, and those that already bought were able to maybe move into the lifestyle market. So, you round it all out, it's a pretty solid story.
You certainly noticed it around Canterbury, and it's such a massive lifestyle market here, as you know. But there was a lot of expat Kiwis money coming back and a lot of sight unseen in the lifestyle market. Of course, wouldn't you want to get out of London and to come to somewhere like beautiful like the Banks Peninsula, Conrad? But in the farm side of it, what has been locked out is foreign capital. So what is driving this?
Well, I think, the farm market, if you look at the farm market, there are several markets within markets. And so you spoke about foreign capital. That, I suppose you have to look at the market in two. If you look at the dairy market particularly, the foreign capital had a big influence in that, particularly 2013, 14 onwards through to about 2017 when the rules changed. But if you have a look at the dairy market below $5 million, a lot of those are still going to owner-operators, much as they've always done. And so that market is operating as normal. But if I was to give you the Canterbury market, you go back 13, 14, about $466 million worth of sales. Canterbury this last 12 months in Canterbury was $21.5 million of sales. So, you've gone from almost $500 million to what may have been one farm under those previous times. So it really has changed quite a lot, and I think people are sort of reacting to that. So you've got a game of two halves. You've got that large end of the market where it's moving much more to return. I think you'll have Andrew comment on that later on the show. And that is, to give a bit of background to that, there's only 6 dairy farms above 10 million sold last year. So whereas actually, if you take the Waikato, there were over 50 farms sold, But again, they typically are those owner-operator holdings rather than the sort of larger scale properties.
How many of them were under contract and didn't sell because the due diligence was just too hard in such uncertain times?
Yeah, due diligence is a real factor. Yeah, and it's on a whole range of fronts. What we now are working through, and we had a really good presentation from Charlotte Glass the other day, and what we really need to do is build more time into our due diligence planning. In other words, the sale process that we often get involved with can take a matter of, it can be a 6 to 8 week sale program. Typically, it can be easily 6 weeks through a tender. If you have a look at due diligence, though, you can be, particularly if consents are not fully understood or the paperwork's not up to date, farm environment plan not completed, that can be months. So it really pays to get on top of those processes early. And what we're seeing on the part of buyers, though, is a very expensive undertaking. And so they're going to be more and more careful about going into a negotiation. And if the information is not to hand and it's not prepared well, they'll probably likely, with the market and the choice they have, probably go to another option, another property that has some of that paperwork organised. So we're really working hard with industry to make sure we're up to date, but importantly, encouraging our farmer clients to partner their advisors and actually get the support they need to actually frame it all up for the season.
Conrad, you say to hand. We live in an environment of covering your ass and passing the buck, to be fair. Yeah. So how much can a potential vendor going on to put it on the market actually do? Because at the end of the day, where does that liability and legality lie on that transaction? Because I know, property brokers can only do so much as an agency in between. Yeah.
Yeah, look, and ultimately everybody has to, there is accountability on part of everybody. We can only do with what's known and ask for all the information that's available to be made available. Equally, a purchaser can go in good faith into a process and then maybe have a decision held up with an irrigation scheme and actually understanding the consenting levels there. There's just a whole raft. So I think ultimately it does come down to the buyers doing their own due diligence and getting their own advice. And I think that's maybe the disconnect sometimes. It's because the buyers are having to, where things are less certain, you just can't know for certain where. And if you look at your previous speaker, they're trying to understand where things are and where they're not. Yeah, it's not straightforward. Well, the only way to through that is you sometimes discount based on the fact that you haven't got perfect knowledge, and if things go south, what's my fallback position?
Sorry to interrupt. I was actually just laughing there because you're absolutely right. When your regional council doesn't even know how it's going to be implemented, it makes it blooming hard to sign off and go unconditional on a large farm deal with so much uncertainty. Certainly feel for everybody that's involved in that process. And as you mentioned, Charlotte Glass, what an outstanding leader and expert in that field, and down here in Canterbury as well. To close, while I've got you, Conrad, our next guest is part of a sponsored series by Farmstrong, something I know you know very deeply well. We're talking tonight, and I need to give a bit of a stir up to those watching who are not participating. We've got this wonderful children's book to give away called Use Your Voice. All you need to do in the comments below is simply let us know how you take some time out for yourself and your family. You could just write horse riding or walking in the hills or biking. Just one word. I need to give this book away tonight, so get in those comments. So my last question to you, Conrad, what do you like to do with your family to sort of, clear the cobwebs out of the head?
Well, Taupo is one of my favourite spots in the world. And my son had been on at me to teach him to fly fish, and there was a bit of challenge coming back from him because he knew it's about 20 years since I last had the rod out properly, and he was sort of doubting my capacity to impart the knowledge. But I have to say I have it on video within half an hour of some superb coaching on the Tongariro River. He was out there double casting and I wouldn't say quite getting to the other side of the bank, but it wasn't a bad effort. And while we didn't catch anything, we did get out in the boat and we caught a 6.5 pound trout later that afternoon. So no better place in the world to clear your head than on the Tongariro River, or if that doesn't work, get out in the boat and get back to some good old-fashioned trolling.
Awesome. Conrad, I can hear some advice coming through. Any sons that are watching out there getting taught by their dad to fly fish, they need to listen to their old man, right?
Absolutely. Couldn't go wrong.
Thank you so much, Conrad Wilkshire, joining us, the General Manager from Property Brokers for the Rural Division. What a fantastic family-owned company and, of course, great results there in terms of farm sales, up 15%.
This is Sarah's Country.